All right. So, first, I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists and to everyone who's taking some time out to come hear about our amazing upcoming books. I couldn't be more excited about these titles and the books that Kensington is publishing recently and upcoming. This is a really uh, great list, and really happy to be sharing it with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share share a little presentation so that everyone can get a look at the covers and a little bit of info about the books that we're going to be talking about. Um, and I will introduce everybody as we go along, and they'll talk a little bit about our books, and then I will um, dive into the remainder of the list. So these are all titles publishing from July through December of this year. A bunch of authors you'll recognize, some really great debut authors, and gonna just jump in now. So the first book that we are going to be talking about is The First Date Prophecy, which is written by Kate and Danny Tamborelli. And you may remember Danny Tamborelli from shows in the 90s on Nickelodeon that I personally was a huge fan of. And we're going to start by sharing a little video that Danny did for us because he was unable to join us today due to an unexpected engagement, but he made a really great video that I'm going to turn it over to Sam from the Kensington team to share with us. We're having a bit of audio difficulties. Sam, can you restart and make sure that you're sharing sound from your end? Sorry, technical difficulties, everyone. We did a dry run and everything was fine.
Sorry about that. Let me try it now.
Hey everybody, so excited to be talking about The First Date Prophecy with you, a pandemic project that made good that my wife and I wrote, if you can believe it. Sorry, I'm just hiding in the closet from the kids. Anywho, The First Date Prophecy is a story about two misfit daters who find each other, and then they have to figure out whether or not it really is love or it's just another one of their failed dating attempts. We're so proud of this book because we wrote it together, and what a cool thing to be able to do with your spouse other than have children. In all seriousness though, the prospect of having our book in a library means so much to both of us. We both spend tons of time in libraries, whether we're studying or it's a rainy Saturday or we needed to escape. We appreciate your time. We hope that you enjoy The First Date Prophecy. And just a little side note, the best advice I ever got was from a librarian. They always told me to be my best shelf. Thank you. All right.
So as mom to a 5 and 2-year-old, I definitely am feeling solidarity there. So I'm gonna go ahead and reshare the book, and I'm also gonna turn it over to Kate Tamborelli, who is here with us today.
Hi, I'm so happy to be able to talk to you about this book. And as Danny said, this is very much a labor of love that we wrote while our kids were napping or on the weekends, or pretty much every scrap of time we could find. He said we were nighttime, nap time scribes, and it really, even on holidays, we would, even if it was 500 words, finding the time. But I am a literary agent by day, and I've written YA books. This is my rom-com debut, and it's Danny's first book, and it pulls a lot from both of our experiences, like mine in the publishing world and being single in New York for many years, and his with his 90s career. And now he makes music, he does comedy, he's recording an album today, which is why he couldn't make this. So he pulled a lot from that, and pulled a lot from our own first Tinder conversations, cut word for word how these characters meet. But where it dissects is they get this really epic read from an elderly psychic, and what she says to them leaves them reeling and working to figure things out in a way that most people, especially in New York dating, wouldn't normally do if they didn't have this really weighty prophecy hanging over them. So we hope it's silly, it's funny, it's heartfelt, and we really poured ourselves into it and are so excited for readers to find it, and really excited about it being in libraries, for people to come find this, and to hopefully, it was such a bright spot for us, as he said, in these last few years, and we hope that readers can feel that when they pick up this book. So thank you very much for coming and listening.
Thank you so much for coming and talking about the book, and to Danny for making that video, which I just thought was on the money. We're already seeing some nice buzz for this book on Goodreads, and actually just watched a video on TikTok from somebody who received their Goodreads copy and is really excited to read it. And, the feedback has been that it is super funny and heartfelt, and I can't wait for it to be out in the world. Next up, we have The Woman in the Castello, which is actually the book I am currently reading. And I was just talking about this before we started. You may be familiar with our Between the Chapters brand. Kensington has Between the Chapters, which has a social presence on all the major platforms, and we have a book club on Facebook with nearly 18,000 members. This will be our August selection, and to introduce this really atmospheric, page-turning, historical suspense novel is debut author Kelsey James.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for this opportunity to get to talk about my book with you. Also, I really relate to the nap time scribe comment. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old as well, so I feel that deeply. I also am the sister of a librarian. Writing historical fiction and having a librarian for a sister is like so incredibly lucky. She gives me so many great tips on how to conduct my research. So I'm a huge fan of libraries and librarians, and getting to take my kids to the library is a weekend highlight for us. But this book is set during the Hollywood on the Tiber era in 1960s Italy. It's about an American starlet who arrives in Rome for her big break with her 2-year-old daughter and her ailing mother, and the movie she's cast in gets canceled, and she finds herself in really desperate circumstances. So she seeks out her mother is born in Italy. She seeks out her estranged aunt, who she's never met, who lives in this crumbling castello by an eerily volcanic lake. And as luck would have it, it becomes the shooting location of a horror movie, and Sylvia manages to land a starring role. But shortly after shooting commences, her aunt disappears. And no one is really interested in investigating what happened to her except for Sylvia. And also Sylvia herself finds out that someone is sabotaging her, and if she can't find out what happened to her aunt, she might be in danger herself. So it's coming out in July 25th, which is perfect for beach season. It's a really, I think, fun, romantic, suspenseful read, but it also does explore some themes that I think would be fun for book clubs too. Really explores the challenges and dangers that women face when they kind of step outside of conventional norms and traditional family structure. The heroine is a young unwed mother, and all of the main female characters are very independent, strong women in the story. And the book also explores, just how far we're willing to go for our families and what family really means.
I was getting nervous that you were going to reveal something that I hadn't gotten to yet. But luckily, you literally stopped right in the nick of time. I was like, no, but we're good. We're good.
I hate spoilers. I would be so mad at myself if I spoiled anything. So I tried not to.
I don't even read the copy on the back of a book before I read. I don't want to know anything. I basically just want to know, like, this is the genre. I heard it was cool. That's pretty much the extent. So, but anyway, very eerie, sets a great, place and time. And I'm, again, just really excited to see this book out there in the world. We've been getting some great early feedback from librarians and independent booksellers. And we have some amazing quotes from other authors, including Susan Wiggs. And it's just a really exciting debut on our list. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us today.
Thank you for letting me.
Next up, we have Her Little Flowers, which is another creepy Gothic read. In this case, it is a ghost story, and there are a lot of horror elements in this book. Takes place in England, which is always, I am a sucker for anything set in the UK. So that is always a really strong selling point for me. I love the way this package came together. I think it's the perfect summer read, and we have editor Elizabeth Trout here to talk to us about Her Little Flowers.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be introducing Her Little Flowers, which, yes, is another spooky Gothic, but yes, modern day ghost story. It's set in the Lake District of Northern England, which, if you know anything about it, the countryside of England, it's so sweeping and gorgeous and just really kind of sets the tone and the scene for this book. And going off of that, the Elizabethan manor in which our heroine resides is this, it's almost a character in itself in the story. It's, there are ghosts in the halls. And one interesting thing about this book is that it deals with the ghosts as both, an element of fear, but also an element of comfort and of, mourning. And it plays with a lot of complicated and interesting feelings about ghosts and haunting and, connecting with the past. So basically our heroine, 55-year-old Francine, has lived her whole life in this crumbling manor house. She now lives alone. Her mother passed away a long time ago. She's estranged from her sister, and her closest companion is a ghost girl. But her estranged sister returns and tells her some things that she has learned about their family's past, which will turn Francine's life upside down. So there's a mystery element. Francine is investigating her past, and it's a dual timeline story. It goes between the present day and flashbacks to the 1950s, in which Francine was a young girl. So eventually the narratives come together, and don't want to give any spoilers, just giving you the broad strokes here.
I'm sorry I made you nervous.
No, basically the secrets of the past are revealed, and Francine has to reckon with how she was involved with, past traumas and potential death. So it's just really, it sweeps you in. It's really, really spooky, but also mournful. And it, it was very emotional ending for me. And it's just, it pulls you in. And if you are interested at all in England and, the Lake District and old houses and that kind of like creaky hallways walking down and, thinking like, oh, what's behind this door? It really pulls you in. And we think fans of Kate Morton, Eve Chase, Shirley Jackson, and many more other, spooky suspense with some ghost elements will be excited about this book. And
then Elizabeth will introduce our next book as well, Reasonable Adults by Robin Leffler, an author who is new to our list.
yes, so this is a very different, we're switching gears from spooky gothic. This is a really charming, fun, emotional read that will, give you all the feels, but in a happy way. So our heroine, Kate Rigsby, is at a personal and professional crossroads. She just broke up with her boyfriend, had a little too much wine and made a regretful social media post that her boss saw, so she loses her job. So she decides to take a chance on this too good to be true sounding job at an artist retreat in the wilds of Canada. But as these things often go, she finds out that it's way more than she bargained for and it wasn't as advertised. So she kind of has to figure out professionally, personally, romantically, how to move forward. So this is it hits a sweet spot between, the humorous situations and like awkwardly funny moments of a rom-com, but also has this deeper emotional pull of women's fiction. The focus is on the heroine, Kate's journey of self-discovery and personal and professional growth and reinventing who she is, figuring out like what is adulting. Even at 31, she still sometimes feels like she hasn't quite hit her stride yet, which is very relatable. And of course, there's a strong romance element, but it is more about the characters, her personal growth. So it's set in the fall and winter and very atmospheric in the sense of it's this really charming, rustic lodge set in, near a lake in Canada. So it gives all the like cozy wintertime vibes. So it'll be a fun read for the holiday season, but it's not explicitly a Christmas or holiday book, but, fun to read when the snow is coming down outside. And there is a golden doodle character in this book. His name is Eric. He's super fun. And it's just a really fun, charming read. I know a lot of times we say books are like hilarious, but she is genuinely very witty and funny. And it's one of the few books, in addition to Kate and Danny's book, The First State Prophecy, where I found myself laughing out loud at certain lines. So I feel like a lot of rom-coms are light on the calm, and this one has some good comedic moments. So it's very fun, and we're excited to debut Robin in the US.
Thank you so much. As a huge fan of One Day in December, I am excited to pick this one up. And the Sophie Cousins quote is a nice touch as well. Next up, we have Star-Crossed, and we were going to have Michaela Hamilton, our editor-in-chief of Citadel, here to introduce it, but unfortunately she was unable to join us. So I'm gonna pick it up and do this one myself. Star-Crossed is a true Romeo and Juliet story that takes place during World War II in Paris. Two star-crossed lovers that are a part of the literary scene in Paris come together, and unfortunately, as happened so often during World War II, are separated tragically. And unfortunately, they're, true to the Romeo and Juliet love story. They do not come back together in the end. They don't make it through the war. This is by author Heather Dune McAdam and Simon Worrell, who wrote 999, which was a Pen America finalist. And it has been a privilege to be able to work on both of these books. And 999, you may remember, as it is still a book that people talk about often, is still selling extremely well, told the story of the first 999 women who were taken to Auschwitz concentration camp. And this story is, as a follow-up to the success of that book. This tells another really important story of World War II and the many atrocities that occurred during that time. And we had previously been publishing it earlier this year, so you may have received an ARC very early, but it is now going to be coming out at the end of August. It's a September publication, and we do have ARCs available for this or any of the books that we're talking about today. Just reach out to me after we are done, and we'll be happy to get them to you. Next up, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin O'Brien, who is one of my absolute favorite authors to work with. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with his books. He's been writing with us at Kensington since 1998, which is crazy because that was only like 5 years ago. But in that time, he has written approximately 20 books?
23.
23 books
Yeah.
in 5 years. Very impressive.
Amazing.
So I will turn this over to you to talk about your trade paperback debut in historical fiction with lots of scary, thrilling suspense.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, I've been writing with Kensington since 1998, and my first book with Kensington was Only Son, which was like sort of a mainstream light thriller about a child abduction. It was more psychological than anything. And after that, I wrote a regular thriller called The Next to Die, and that hit the USA Today bestseller list. And that I found my niche right away. My agent was like, okay, you're going to have to put a book out a year that is a thriller, and it's going to be paperback original. I was like, okay. So that I was up to the task, and I've since hit the New York Times bestseller list, which was really cool. And I've put out books called like The Next to Die and Hide Your Fear and all these other contemporary thriller titles. And I'd always wanted to do a book set during World War II in the home front, like in Seattle. And Seattle specifically because of Boeing and all the work being done by women in the shipyards and at Boeing. And I wanted to make it sort of like a thriller set against that kind of backdrop. So I went to my local library and actually took a year off. I've been putting out a book a year since 1999, and took a year off during the pandemic, and went to the library and looked up a lot of stuff on World War II that I just found fascinating. And I'm so grateful to the libraries that not only the videos that I rented, but the books that I read and the articles. And I'd already been fascinated by World War II anyway, and especially the home front scene with, for example, the Japanese Americans who were interred, the women who were suddenly taking on jobs, the juvenile delinquency problem that they had, rationing, blackouts, just the list goes on and on of what went on. And it's there's an analogy there to the pandemic too. So it was fun setting a serial killer thriller at a time before we even coined the term serial killer. So it was just a fun fun book to read, to research, and I'm hoping that it's a hit with librarians and everyone out there. I don't know if you want to get any more about the actual plot. Is a mom of two. Her husband's away. He's a doctor. He's away in the Army Medical Corps in North Africa. It's 1943, Seattle. She joins Boeing's workforce of working women, and suddenly finds she's not very welcome there by the men, and that there's racial tension. There's she meets a few closeted gay people. She just runs the whole gauntlet, and so it's a lot of fun about what's going on there. And meanwhile, some of the women are being murdered by somebody who doesn't like women being in power. So and she's got to solve this murder. So that gives you sort of an idea of what's going on.
I'm really excited to read this one. This is going to be our Between the Chapters October pick for spooky season. I think that people have been really excited about having historical fiction with suspense in it, because historical fiction is a perennial favorite. Thrillers are a perennial favorite. When you can mash them together, it's just, there's something for everybody. And the way that so much of the historical fiction that we've been doing is tied into real stories, real history. I think for people like me who, I studied history in college, and now I don't want to study anymore, but I still want to learn things. So I can read fiction and still feel like I'm learning. And I feel like that has been appealing to a lot of people.
Now, well, that was the fun part about writing it, is, to work in her victory garden and the rationing and the blackouts that every night the lights went out in Seattle at 11 o'clock and everybody had to close their drapes, and finding out things that, like, that the Japanese actually invaded 2 islands outside, just right by Alaska, and they also attacked Bakersfield, California, from a submarine and did a lot of bombing there. And we don't think that the World War II touched the home front, that we were all safe here, but we weren't. Oh,
yeah, there's always these pieces of history that we find out about, and it's just really fascinating. And when you can throw a lot of page-turning suspense in there, you've definitely got me hooked.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for sharing your book with us, and we will definitely be talking a lot more about it, I'm sure. Next up, we have Rochelle Ehlers, and her first historical fiction novel with us, Take the Long Way Home. I'm sure you remember many of her prior books. She's a veteran author, national bestseller, who has written many contemporary women's fiction and romance novels. And I'm just, given what we were just talking about and the the popularity of historical fiction, I'm just really excited to be able to share this book that touches on so many important topics and themes, and really kind of introduce to a whole new audience.
I'm really excited about this book because even the title sort of takes I had to take the long way home because I had originally submitted this to Kensington back in 1999. So you see how long it's taken for it to be published. And then something happened and I had to pull it back, but I never gave up. I never gave up because it's not autobiographical, but I was a witness to a lot of the historical events that happened in this book. I was part of, I went to the March on Washington as a young girl. I remember coming home and my mom used to listen to the McCarthy hearings on the radio. I had 3 brothers who served in Vietnam. I was in college during the sit-ins and the walkouts. So, I was able to, even though I had to do some research, most of it was from what I remembered over the years. And, and the thing is, it's just like, I started out in college as a history major, but they told me you have to write books or you'll teach, but so you would make a lot of money. So, but history has always been something that I loved. And the fact that, there were teachers and librarians in my family, even my daughter who's taught for 20 some odd years and is now a librarian. So it's always been books. So the thing is, when I got ready to write this, everything that I had remembered, everything that had been told to me came rushing back. Even though I'm a native New Yorker, my family roots are in the South. So I was able to draw on that, a lot of the sayings, the foods, the traditions, the customs. But, it's just like, this book was what I would call a book of my heart. I've written a lot of books. I've written at least 100 titles, but this one is very, very special. It's like when people have their children, they claim they don't have a special child, but you do. I only have one, so she's special. So this is really my special child, and it's my only child. And the thing is, I've gotten into the knack now where I can write historical fiction, because my next book will be about the Negro baseball leagues. And, so I'm able to bring in a little bit of fiction, a little bit of nonfiction, and then a whole lot of fantasy when I start to create the story. So, but I'm really excited about Take the Long Way Home, because people of my generation will remember a lot of the things that went on during this time period, during these 7 decades. The book ran a lot longer. The manuscript was almost 200,000 words, and it had to be cut twice. But I think what was left was really the heartbeat and the capillaries and the veins that make the story come alive and make these characters come alive. And, it's one woman that there are 4 men in her life that will change and make her who she is during the end. And I'm quite happy with her. and this is a heroine that came of age during women's lib, birth control, suffrage, Jim Crow. So, it's like, it covers a lot, but it doesn't read like a history book. It reads like a woman's diary, that you open the pages and you read what she's gone through to make her who she is today. That's it.
That was beautiful. I mean, if you didn't want to read the book before, if you were on the fence, I feel like now you just have to pick it up. That was just, when I was in the editorial meeting when this was first presented, and it was mentioned that it was, a manuscript that had been previously submitted, and just what a kind of, just the story of like the publication of this book is just so special. And I'm just really proud that we are publishing this book. And yeah, I think all the work that went into it is certainly something that people will feel in the text, and that was certainly worth the wait. Now we have one other video that we're going to share. This time, I don't want to say we're not going to have any technical difficulties, but we're not going to have any technical difficulties this time. Pressure's on.
Is my book gonna be in the library? I was thinking, I just want it to be in the library.
It might be.
I don't see why it wouldn't.
Well, that's a good thing, guys. I like libraries. People go there to grow their brains, and they read books and stuff. And my book would be in the library, so people can go like, I need to go to the library and read Tim's book, because they could grow my brain.
You can't talk in the library.
I won't talk in the library. Just basically, I just want to be there and say, hey, God, thank you for reading my book.
You can't do
It's
that.
amazing, isn't it?
No.
Oh, no, no good? Okay. Oh, ladies. Hey, lady. You read Tatum's book.
Yeah.
Cause that's amazing. No, no good? Okay, sorry. Well, you know what? We'll just leave the book in the library and then everybody else can read it. Okay? That sounds good to me.
So if you're not familiar with Tatum, that was your first taste of Tatum, author of Tatum Comes Home, with some help from Micah Stone, who did the bulk of the heavy lifting on the writing for this book. So Kensington is partnering with the dog agency who represents some of the biggest pet dog talent out there. And we will be having a series of books, each one starring one of these incredible dogs. And the first one will be Tatum Comes Home, starring Tatum Talks, who has millions of followers and views and likes on TikTok. And I have to say, when I started watching Tatum's videos, I was instantly a fan. There's something about the face and the voice, and it just really sucks you in. Each of these books will be really heartwarming, sweet, perfect for lovers of contemporary women's fiction and pet books, which is something that Kensington has really, found our stride in. And this is just kind of a natural extension of our pet publishing program. We are really, really excited to launch with Tatum. If you're not a fan, if you're not a fan now, once you start watching those videos, you absolutely will be. And this will be out later this year. When they announced this book on TikTok in a video, first of all, it was hilarious, of course, but the pre-order went to number 87 overall on Amazon. So the reach is incredible and the fans are extremely engaged. They are showing up for Tatum, and I only anticipate that we will see more and more excitement as we get closer to publication. And now the only person who could follow Tatum and possibly just absolutely top whatever Tatum has to say is legendary romance author Mary Jo Putney, who is, of course, a New York Times bestseller, who is one of my personal favorite historical romance authors and one of my personal favorite authors to get together with and share a delicious meal. She will be launching a new series at the end of this year with Silver Lady. And without further ado, I will turn it over to her.
Okay, I'm very happy to be here because I love librarians, because all writers love librarians. The first book I ever had that hit the New York Times list was dedicated to libraries and librarians. It was One Perfect Rose over 20 years ago, and my love has never faltered. This new series, though, is an interesting one. Anybody who's read many of my books knows that I've written a lot around the Napoleonic Wars, the Regency period, war, drama. I've always felt there's sort of a connection between the Napoleonic Wars and World War II, because in both cases, Britain for long periods of time stood alone against the continental monster, villains you can really hate. So it provides lots of drama, lots of intrigue. But even more than history, my books are about psychology, about people who have been traumatized, about healing, love, and friendship. So Silver Lady is set a little bit earlier, right at the end of the Peace of Amiens, which was in 2002 and 2003, a break in 30 years of war. And everybody knows that it's going to end pretty soon, and that both sides have been busily breaking the treaties and rearming themselves and just waiting for the sword to drop. So that's where this book starts. But it also has some, I won't say they're magical elements because it's not magic. It's about people who are gifted, who have perhaps what you'd call them psychic abilities, something beyond the average. And that makes them very useful to some, and it also makes them very threatening to others. So it's not unusual for gifted children to be thrown away by their parents, particularly if they have discovered something the parents don't want known. And also, as I mentioned, most of my series have been built around friendship groups. In this particular story, it starts with two very small boys, Cade and Bran, who have made their way from Cornwall, where they were at a baby farm, where they were both set to die of neglect. And they make their way all the way to London in midwinter, because Bran, who is the hero of this book, has this sense that if they get there, it's going to be all right. And it is, because they're taken in by an aristocratic couple who are gifted themselves, who have made something of a mission of rescuing kids who are gifted and who have been thrown into dire straits. So the kids become the members of the tribe of Tremaine. Tremaine is the family name, and there's about a dozen or so kids, some of them biological, most of them are adopted, which means if I want to continue the series, I could probably go on forever. But in this particular one, Bran, he's happy with his family, he's happy with his life, and he works for the Home Office, which is charged with protecting Britain, which means spies and all kinds of things during wartime. He is not happy when a lawyer shows up from Cornwall and says that he is the heir to the title and properties of the Penhaligon estate. His father, who hated gifted children, had thrown Bran away because he had two older sons to inherit. They're both dead, so now reluctantly his father wants to bring him home and make him the heir. Bran is not exactly totally on board with all this, but he feels very strongly that he should go because he has very strong intuition. And he does go, and he discovers a lot more than he realizes he would. Curiosity and intuition lead him to find a gifted amnesiac young woman who's being chased by foxhounds and villains. She shimmers with silver in his mind's eye. So he rescues her from her pursuers and helps restore her to herself with the help of two of his Tremaine siblings. As she gradually becomes herself, she becomes more and more a person that he cannot step away from, and vice versa. The four of these Tremaines, or these gifted children, also discover a terrorist plot based on something, the real Royal Navy shipyard in Plymouth, which is now the biggest shipyard in Europe, actually. At the time, there was a terrorist danger because the new wars are about to start. So needless to say, there's romance, action, danger, and happily ever after.
And that's what I love about your books. There's so much there. When you're reading historical romance, a lot of times, there's London and there's the ton, and you know what to expect. But I feel like with a Mary Jo Putney book, you never know what the setting is going to be. You never know what twists and turns are going to happen. You just know that it's going to be beautifully written and very well researched. And so I am very much looking forward to getting my ARC of this book. Also really excited because this will be a new trade paperback series, and trade paper is my favorite format. So very exciting.
I might add that the last time I started a new series with Kensington was because marketing said rather plaintively, "We'd like you to do a new series." So I did a spin-off from the Rogues Redeemed, which were a spin-off from the Lost Lords, and there were some overlapping characters, but it gave me a chance for new setups, new characters, and you always want to make marketing happy.
Are we going to see any of our old characters in this new series?
No, this is a completely new setting.
All
It
right.
also has the gifted.
All right.
Which makes it a somewhat different universe. Same history, same great characters, same great friendships, but no, nobody from the other series.
Okay. I just want to know what to expect.
Happily ever
Thank
after.
you so much for joining us today and for sharing about your new book and your new series. That wraps up the portion of the presentation where the really exciting people talk, who are the authors and the editors. And unfortunately now it's just me. So I'm going to take us through some of the other books on our list. And actually, before I do that, we have Michaela Hamilton here, who is going to present Star-Crossed for us earlier. She was having trouble getting in. She is now here. So we're going to rewind a bit because she's going to do much more justice to this title than I could have. So, especially in a pinch. So I'm going to turn it over to Michaela. She's going to talk a little bit more about Star-Crossed, and then I'm going to take us through the rest of the list. And then we will take any questions and wrap things up.
Hi, everyone. I apologize for my late arrival, and I'm very happy to talk about Star-Crossed, a true Romeo and Juliet story in Hitler's Paris by Heather Doone McAdam and Simon Worrell. Following the major international success of her book 999, The Extraordinary Young Women of the First Official Jewish Transport to Auschwitz, Heather Doone now presents an intimate story of one young Jewish woman, her life and love during the German occupation of Paris in the early 1940s. She's writing this time with her husband, Simon Worrell, who is a journalist and author with many credits. They introduce the readers to a lively and talented young woman named Annette Zellman. She's a 17-year-old student at the School of Fine Arts. And we also meet the handsome young poet that she falls in love with at a cafe that's frequented by the literary and artistic elite of the day. Because Annette was Jewish and Jean was Catholic, their families opposed their relationship. But like Romeo and Juliet, their love prevailed. Sadly, again, like Shakespeare's doomed lovers, they met a tragic end under the German regime. The authors came to this story through a French friend who kept insisting, "You've got to write a book about my sister." And they were skeptical at first, but when they looked at the family's memorabilia, they were so interested and fascinated to realize that Annette's brief life offered unique and telling insights into the lives of Parisians during the German occupation. It also has very touching insights into the suffering of Jewish families and the haunting lessons that we can learn from these two young lovers. They carried out painstaking research in archives and museums and Shoah testimonials in order to draw their readers seamlessly into this bygone world where young people met for coffee, danced in illicit clubs, and pursued their dreams despite the shadows of severe rationing, increasingly frequent raids and deportations, and the ever-present threat of death. The book includes extensive source notes, a bibliography, index, and discussion questions. Audio rights have been licensed, as have some of our foreign territories. And this fall, we'll see the release of Heather Doone McAdam's film based on 999, and the title of the film is also 999. And that will provide extra opportunities for her to promote this book.
Thank you, Michaela. I appreciate you coming and, giving the full treatment to Star-Crossed, because it is a book that we're really proud to be publishing, as we are with 999. So long awaited and really happy to be able to share this important piece of history. Totally shifting gears from there, I'm going to talk about Lisa Jackson, who is back with her summer thriller, The Last Sinner. And this will be the final book in her Benson Montoya series, which is set in New Orleans. If you are a fan of Lisa Jackson, you are familiar with this series, and you'll be very excited to see the overarching mystery that has been plaguing these detectives since book one will finally be solved, but not before there are some really killer antics. I'm sorry, I just did that. Killer antics. And this is The Last Sinner, Lisa's hardcover for this summer. Then we have Nancy Bush, The Camp, one of my favorite covers of this summer. This will be Nancy's trade paperback debut. She is a New York Times bestselling author. Her most recent book was Wicked Dreams, which she co-wrote with sister Lisa Jackson in January, which wrapped up their Colony series. So this is kind of the year of Lisa Jackson wrapping up series and loose ends, and fans are really excited to have the opportunity to come to these authors multiple times this year in the camp. We have a thrilling suspense story with shades of horror and the 80s slasher film nostalgia. It is very in the vein of Friday the 13th. It takes place in a camp deep in the woods, and there's a killer on the loose. And so therefore, as far as I'm concerned, it is the perfect summer read. Then we have a debut from Marielle Thompson, Where Ivy Dares to Grow. This is kind of the summer of Gothic novels for Kensington. This one is a time travel Gothic suspense novel with a love story. And in this book, the heroine is struggling with her mental health and living with some really cruel relatives as she is trying to deal with her mental health issues. And in their eerie manner, she is transported into the past and meets a very alluring stranger. And so there are a lot of threads to this story: what is real, what is not, dealing with mental health issues, and of course, you know, under the backdrop of this Gothic love story. So this is perfect for fans of Mexican Gothic, and again, perfect for your Gothic summer reading list. Charlotte Isles Is Not a Detective is a book that we are really, really excited to be publishing. This is a debut novel from Katie Siegel, who is a TikTok creator who has 650,000 followers and millions of likes and views on her videos. This mystery series is perfect for fans of books like Arsenic and Adobo, and it comes out of a TikTok video series that she created with character Charlotte Isles. So there is already a huge built-in audience for this book, plus, you know, the huge audience of people who are just interested in kind of mainstream cozy mysteries right now, with books like The Maid and Richard Osman's mysteries. So this is the perfect time for this book. And of course, there will be a lot of online tie-in promotion to go along with it. And then I've said this 1,000 times, but they all really are my favorite authors on the list. One of my favorite authors on our list, Shanora Williams, is back with The Other Mistress. Shanora is a New York Times bestselling author who is published in multiple different genres. She has been writing suspense for us, beginning with The Perfect Ruin, which was a Target Diverse Book Club selection, and then last year's The Wife Before, which continues to be a huge hit for her. That book was perfect for fans of Verity, but why I liked it much more than I liked Verity even was because she writes a diverse cast of characters, which is something you don't find as often in the psychological suspense genre, and something that there needs to be more of. And Shanora is definitely filling some of that gap with her really page-turning, exciting, acclaimed books. In The Other Mistress, we have a woman who finds out her husband is cheating on her, and she goes to some pretty jaw-dropping lengths to try and win back his affections. And as we go along, things just kind of get more twisty and more crazy until, of course, a jaw-dropping ending that you will not see coming. Shanora is another author who is very popular online, and she has a great TikTok channel. She is just fantastic to work with. She's a wonderful promoter. She's a great writer, and we will definitely be seeing more and more from her. And then I feel like an author who needs no introduction, Joanne Fluke, New York Times bestseller, pretty much the biggest name in cozy mysteries, is back with Pink Lemonade Cake Murder. Generally, we publish Joanne in March. This year, we are publishing in the summer, the perfect package, the perfect recipe for your summer picnics and barbecues. Pink Lemonade Cake. It's a beautiful package. People just can't get enough of this series. With the longer time period between books, there's even more people waiting to get their copy. So it's a great time, great summer for reading mysteries and suspense. And then we have author Lorena Hughes, who you may remember from her book, The Spanish Daughter, which has been and continues to be a really strong hit for Kensington. That book took place in Ecuador. In this story, we are moving to Colombia, and the story is centered around the actual devastation that occurred after the 1925 Cali earthquake. In this book, we will again have a strong mystery element that threads through the plot as three strangers with secrets of their own are searching for the missing owner of a hacienda. Again, Lorena brings a really important amount of diversity to the historical fiction genre, setting her books in Ecuador and Colombia, and really talking about history that we don't see as often in so many of the historical fiction novels that are coming out. So these are really great books, lots of acclaim. People have really been loving the first book, and this one will be another favorite for book clubs and libraries. And then again, for fans of Josie Silver and One Day in December, we have Through the Snow Globe by Annie Raines. This is a great holiday and winter romance women's fiction story for fans of It's a Wonderful Life and Groundhog Day. It's the perfect seasonal story to get you in the spirit of the holidays and of the winter snowy months, with some humor and some love. And of course, the incomparable Fern Michaels. What would be a presentation of books without including Fern? We have two titles from Fern in this span. First, we have the third book in her Lost and Found series, starring brother and sister duo Luna and Cullen. In Liar, we have more suspense, more excitement, set in Charleston, revolving around an antique store. And then in Santa and Company, this year's Christmas novel from Fern Michaels, we will revisit the characters from her huge hit, Santa Cruz, which was 2021's Fern Michaels Christmas novel, in which friends went on a cruise for the holidays. Now we're going to come back to those friends, see what they've been up to, and another book to get you in the spirit of the season. A book that I'm really excited about, Pat Martin, The Ghost Illusion. Pat is another author that I've been working with for a really long time. And in this book, she is going to be writing a standalone suspense novel that is based on a tragic event that happened in 1883, where a huge group of children were crushed to death trying to exit a theater. So in this book, it takes place in the present day, and it is part ghost story, part suspense, part thriller. And she kind of ties everything together and really ratchets up the page-turning suspense as only Kat can do. So this is a bit of a departure for her, and I'm excited about having this kind of bigger story to really broaden her audience and take Kat to a whole new group of readers who haven't read one of her New York Times bestsellers before. And then we have Andrea Penrose, Murder at the Meryton Library. This is the new book in her Rexford and Sloane historical mystery series. These take place in the Regency with a detective duo. And this is our biggest historical mystery series. Hits bestseller lists with each release since 2021. Really exciting, and regularly in our top 10 ebook pre-orders the minute the books go up and become available. In the fall, Kensington acquired Erewhon Books, which is a publisher of science fiction and fantasy. And this fall, we will begin publishing Frontlist under the Erewhon banner with The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan. In this book, it's the first in a trilogy. She is pulling from Jewish folklore to do some really incredible, well done world building. And we will follow these characters throughout the Mirror Realm cycle of 3 books, which takes place during the Spanish Inquisition era. So there's a lot of true history here. There's a lot of world building. There's a beautiful package, and this will be our November Between the Chapters book club selection that we will be discussing. Then we have V.S. Alexander, author of The War Girls, which came out in August of 2022. V.S. is back with The Novelist from Berlin. This is World War II historical fiction, hitting on all the pieces that historical fiction fans really flock to. World War II books and a European setting that, you know, really brings people into kind of that moment of the war. And again, you know, we will learn more true history that was little known. One more Christmas book to talk about, Janet Daly, New York Times bestseller, The Sound of Sleigh Bells. This is another Texas set contemporary holiday romance story with all the elements that romance readers adore to get in the spirit of the season. We have cowboys, we have Christmas trees and sleighs and horses and snow and all of the really heartwarming themes that Janet's Christmas books are known for. She is, of course, a huge name in the genre, and this book will be perfect for fans of Rayanne Thane and Susan Mallory, who have their yearly Christmas novels as well. If you're looking for heartwarming romance for the holidays, The Sound of Sleigh Bells is the one. Carleen O'Connor, who of her cozy mystery fame, launched the County Kerry series last November with No Strangers Here, personal favorite of mine last year. Again, Irish setting. I'm totally a sucker and pulled in every time I hear it. These books star Dimpna Wade, who is a veterinarian. They take place on the coast of Ireland, and in each book, she is pulled into and embroiled in a murder investigation. Unlike her Irish Village series, these books are not cozy mysteries. These are straight mystery suspense, perfect for fans of authors like Tana French and Dervla McTiernan. And the first book really delivered, so I'm very much looking forward to getting my arc on Some of Us Are Looking. Maddie Day launches a brand new series and hardcover debut with Murder Uncorked. Maddie writes 2 other cozy mystery series for us set in the Midwest and New England. And in this one, she is turning her attention to California wine country, which is the perfect place to solve murders as an amateur sleuth. Again, like Fern, what would be a presentation without the mention of the Johnstone writing team, William W. Johnstone and J. Johnstone in Nice Guys Finish Dead. We are following up Old Cowboys Never Die, which came out last November. This will be this year's book in this series. The Johnstones are almost always on a bestseller list. And with the trade paperback publishing program, we've been able to expand the audience into more historical fiction readers. And it's been exciting to cast a wider net with this format and these kind of larger stories. So this will be this fall's trade paper release for the Johnstones. Sarah Driscoll, That Others May Live. This is the new FBI canine mystery. This series is a fan favorite, very popular. It has shades of kind of John Gilstrap political thriller, but also has strong female heroine, and of course, the FBI canine companion that really pulls readers in. These are well-researched, exciting, page-turning suspense novels for readers looking for action and strong female characters. And then Shelley Lawrenston. The incomparable Shelley Lawrenston is back with her honey badgers. Born to be Badger is the new book in the Honey Badger Chronicles series. And each book has performed extremely well. She has a huge fan following. She also writes as G.A. Aiken, where she has been doing the Scarred Earth saga. We had the Heretic Royal in January. Now we will have Born to be Badger under Shelley Lawrenston in December. Just really exciting for her legions of fans. And we expect more Badgers again next year. So there will not be as long of a wait for her Badger fans this time. And that brings us to the end of our book list. I think that went really well. Couple technical difficulties, but of course, what would a virtual presentation be without a couple of technical difficulties that we could all laugh about? I really appreciate the panelists who came and spent their time with us today, and way more importantly than spending their time with us today, for writing these amazing books, and to Michaela and Elizabeth for editing these amazing books, and the whole Kensington team for all the work that they do to put them out in the world, and Sam, my incredible video presenter, who set up all of this tech, all of the tech for today, all the webinar and everything. Thank you, Sam, for putting everything together. You have been my right hand in this presentation. So if anyone is looking, as I mentioned, for ARCs, digital or print, please let us know, reach out. We are happy to provide them as they're available. We have many of the books we talked about today, some we don't have yet, but we can always keep a list and send them as they're available. And if you just have questions, if you have comments, if you're like, hey, why don't you have a book about this thing? Just send me an email and we will chat about it. Thank you so much for attending today. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Well done, Alex.
Thank you. Well done.
Well
Mary
done.
Jo,
And
as
Sam.
always.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.